So today I want to talk about feeling hopelessness about the planet and six mindset shifts that really help me, and I hope will help you stay in action and have a great life and make change in the world. So the first one is embrace the death cycle. So I was having a conversation with my old yoga teacher, Brian Cass, many years ago, or not many years ago, last year. And it's on the podcast that we did. And he said this really amazing thing. He said, what if we're destroying the planet perfectly? Like, he's not okay with us destroying the planet. And Nietzsche also says that if you think to yourself that even this tiniest little thing about your life should be different than it was, then your whole life unravels. So, life and death cycles are part of the world. And we're in a death cycle. Anybody who tells you otherwise is just, they got their head in the sand. They like the status quo. They don't have the courage or the capacity to see it or to look at it. In some ways we can't fault them for that. It's very big to look at unless you have the right mindset. So, Joseph Campbell also says a wonderful thing. He says, the world has always been full of pain and suffering and injustice and sorrow, and you have to say yes to it. There's really not another option. The only other option is to go unconscious. It's like to take whatever the Matrix blue pill or whatever it is so that you go back to sleep. So you have to embrace that we are in a death cycle. We are unfortunately in possibly a democratic death cycle as well as an ecological death cycle. Now that doesn't mean that it's inevitable that these deaths will take over, but what it means is that instead of trying to wish or hope or get depressed that the world is the way it is that we need to put our focus on the seeds of the future. So that's number one. Number one is embrace your place in the death cycle. So you are in the death cycle. So that doesn't mean that you're an agent of death. That means you're the heroic life force inside of the death cycle. Recently watching season 3 of The Wheel of Time on Prime. And, a lot of things I think they really got right in that season about the mythological challenges that we're facing right now. And that's a huge death cycle that their whole world is in. And you want to be part of the life force that's building the seeds of the new world to come. So instead of focusing on how tragic it is that this world is dying, you want to be part of the seeds of that new world that's coming. Another thing that's really interesting, I think it's very prominent in Judeo-Christian culture, which has, taken over the planet in a lot of ways. Judeo-Christian Islam, the Middle Eastern-born cultures, religious cultures, is this denial of death. So, and that really stems back to the denial of the earth energy, the goddess energy, which is, if you look at the old cultures that have the earth energy and the goddess energy embedded inside of it, there's an acknowledgement of how all things are born and all things are destroyed. So you need, in order to make peace with the place that we are and have a great life inside of it and to be a force for light or good, you need to acknowledge that we're in a death cycle and acknowledge that death cycles are a natural part of phenomenon. They're a natural part of empires. The United States is an empire. We have the global world currency. Prior to us, it was the United Kingdom. Prior to them, it was the Dutch. Prior to them, it was the Portuguese. And then there were regional world powers and older and older and older and going on back. So this empire will not last forever. And that's not an unpatriotic thing to say. It's just what is. And patriotism wrapped in this idea that we should keep empire going on forever, I think it's just an old, outdated idea. We need to honor the 4.8 billion or 4.3 billion year old Earth creatures that we are, and something larger than just the empire and nation state idea. So Let's see, I already said that. I'm checking my notes. I don't want to forget anything important. So the deep inner peace will come when you fully embrace that we're in a death cycle. And again, that doesn't mean that you're just like, oh, throw my hands up in the air, let's party until we poop. You know, poop out and die is what I mean, not until you poop. But it does mean that you're not trying to change the whole system. You're honoring the cycle that we're in. You know, you can try to change something like the birth of democracy came out of, you know, an incredibly despotic time. So those kind of things. The point is, not give up, activate, be an activist, create positive change, but accept the death cycle, the macro death cycle that we're in. You can do your little part to try to turn it around, but that your job is not to actually turn it around. Your job is to do your part. And now I'll bring us on to the next one. Mindset number 2, shift. So number 1 is embrace your place in this death cycle. We are in a death cycle and have been in a death cycle for a long time. Now it's acutely democratic, but it's been ecological for years. So number 2 is focus entirely on effort. So in the Bhagavad Gita, the principle is you know, you have a right to your labor, to your effort, to your focus, but you do not have a right to the results. You could also say that from a Middle Eastern religious standpoint in which all things belong to God. You know, you don't have a right to any material thing in the world. You only have a right to your effort, your perspective, that which you bring forth to what is. It's almost like you're renting space. Now I come from a more earth-centered religious sentiment in which the earth owns this. This is an earth body. I don't get to be here without my earth body that's made up of the earth and the interactions between all the humans and the species and the society and everything. So I'm renting space here. So I get to experience it and I get to put forth the agency inside of this body, but the results in the world and in my body, those are outside of me. They belong to a larger thing than me. So I don't own the results. The results are owned by the larger entity, the life entity around me. You know, and it's the same thing in Buddhism. So in Buddhism, you're unattached. There's no attachment to the physical things. The only thing you attach yourself is to the effort you put forth moment by moment by moment. You know, another wonderful way to think about that is also to disconnect yourself from immediate greed is to focus on the idea you plant seeds of trees in which you will never know the shade. So it is in the act of planting those seeds and caring for those trees in their early years that the real deep spiritual reward of being human is evoked. And that peace and power comes. You know, it's kind of like, you know, Martin Luther King and you know, John F. Kennedy, like, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And Martin Luther King, like, give and, I don't know, like, any quotes of Martin Luther King, but, like, stand for the rights of other people. It's not for yourself. It's not for what you're trying to gain. So if you land yourself squarely in your effort, even if you are working towards, you know, your financial independence or whatever your personal goals are, it's the effort, focus on the effort being its own reward. And that gives you resilience. So there's a lot of talk these days about resilience, and what real resilience looks like is taking an action every day. And then some of my other videos, I've talked about this idea that something is always better than nothing. When you're feeling stuck, when you're feeling internal resistance, Stephen Pressfield talks about that internal resistance that's always there when you're trying to create something as an artist. But it's always there for all of us all the time. And so just getting up, facing that resistance, feeling it, hearing the voices in your head that are the resistance, and then doing one thing and moving in that direction of effort. Taking the excuse out of your mind there's two types of us that use excuses in our mind. One is the excuses, those people outside, those people over there, they're the ones that are doing it to me. And then the other is I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I'm not capable. And then the demon becomes inside of your own mind. So letting both of those go and just taking some action. So number one, to repeat, is embrace the death cycle that we're in and find your place in it. Number two is focus entirely on your effort, not on the results that are produced in the outside world or in your personal life. Adjust, find the feedback, notice what's working, what's not working, be smart, but don't focus on the results. Focus on what's the next right action you can take. Number three is, I like this. It's just a permaculture principle. It's the zones principle. If you're not familiar with permaculture, there's a whole set of design principles about living in harmony with nature and producing all your own food, materials, and supplies. And then people have broadened it out to a social context and a community context. But I really like the idea of zones. So in a permaculture system, when you're designing something, you put the most energy into those things that are, you design things so that the things that you touch the most are right around you, are what you focus on the most. So in permaculture, they're talking about, like, a lot of times they're talking about your herb garden being right next to your kitchen, or your food, your wood lot being the farthest thing out in what they call zone 5. So in zone 0, in this way I'm talking about this, you focus on your mind, like making your mind right with yourself, like battling that resistance every day so that you get, so that you do something. And then I would say zone 1 would be your body, like focusing on your body, like bringing into your body the most healthy, vital, local, regenerative foods and materials that you can, and breathing fresh air, whatever you can do. There's always something. Even if you're in the heart of the city and it's polluted and you're inhaling smog, you can do something. You can get an air filter. You can, buy an organic asparagus or a cilantro, because it's going to help detoxify your system. So that's zone 0 and zone 1. Like, really focus on those. Check my notes. And then the other thing is, instead of getting sucked into these macro conversations about Donald Trump and Elon Musk and and Vladimir Putin and all those people, what can you do in your family right now to increase the planetary wellness, plant the seeds for the future regenerative culture? Bring in more friends and family into a positive, loving, compassionate circle. Like, just work on that zone first. So start with your mind and your body, and then your immediate surroundings and your family, and then move out into the bigger sphere. You can operate in the bigger sphere, but only if you can hold those other pieces in good, positive place too. They all have to be holistic and refracting in a holistic way with each other, or it moves into a more ego, pain, fear-driven place, which isn't going to help anybody. With the real healings that need to occur are wisdom-based. So it's like, we need a wisdom-based culture, and for us to create that wisdom-based culture, it has to be a full, encompassing thing. I want to make another piece, which this is kind of relating to right now, and that is that our outside politics, our outside activities, our all of that stuff is a reflection of our inner character. And so if we're not working on our inner character, we're going to bring out our demons into the world. I'm just going to say it really quick. Like, if you look at the people that are in the American highlight right now, you've got Donald Trump and Elon Musk are the primary characters. Incredibly abusive father figures. And they have not dealt with their inner demons around their abusive fathers. So what do? They push abusive father energy out on the whole world. So you got to deal with your inner demons first. So that's focus on zone 0, your inner demons. What are you dealing with? And then 1, your body, like bringing that together. And then out into your circle. I do have to say, like, my whole thing is personal ecosystem design. So the more you design your ecosystem to be a healthy, holistic place, then all those other parts, the mind and the body, will help hold it together. It's not about willpower. It's about an ecosystem of self. Okay, back to my notes. Moving on to number 4. So number 4, I'm calling cultivate realistic hope. So you have to have hope. You've got to have hope for the future. You've got to have a vision. That's what that means. That means that you can see a possible future. You want to be like a seer, someone who, like a Nostradamus, who sees the future. But with all seers, those are just possible futures. They're never actually the real future. So in that possible future that you see, you want to ground it in reality. I used to do transformational seminars. One of my favorite seminars that they did was I just remember the teacher in the front of the room saying, like, we as people, we suck at reality. Like, we just don't do reality very well. Because reality, it hurts, and it doesn't actually keep you safe. Like, if you see the world clearly the way it is, it's sometimes more difficult to navigate it. Just because the Donald Trumps of the world and the Elon Musks of the world, they're just such great examples because they're everywhere right now. They have a lot of power. And seeing reality in some senses gives them that power, but also they don't see reality in the total sense because they don't need to see reality to have that level of power. You have to have it in a certain domain. Like Elon has it in this physics and business domain, and Donald Trump has it in this public perception domain. And those two domains, they use those domains and exploit them exponentially to create wealth and power. But these other domains are not necessarily related to reality. So we, in general, aren't very good at seeing the whole picture. It's just impossible. The world is too complex, and we have to, our body brain is designed to simplify it so that we can survive in the environment that we're in. That doesn't mean that we're completely connected to reality. It means that we're surviving. So given that that we're all challenged in seeing reality, we still need to, that's step number 1. Step number 1 is, acknowledging. Those of you who don't want to acknowledge that, I don't know what to tell you, other than really dig into cognitive biases. And once you start really digging into cognitive biases, you'll see how much you get wrong. Like the people who are the most grounded in reality are the ones that have sufficiently checked their ego at the door so that they can say, I was wrong, and feel the pain. Like, that's the thing. Being grounded in reality, it's painful. It hurts because you see how many times you've hurt others. If you open your heart, like practice being like Jesus, open your heart and really let in what reality is there, and you see how you acted directly up in opposition to that and hurt other people, man, it hurts. It just blows. I'm sorry I'm not giving a specific example right now. I know that would make it more compelling, but all I can think about is when I was thinking about my grandfather, and when I was an 18-year-old boy, I had all these friends over, and he was sleeping in the guest room at my parents' house. And we were just drinking and smoking and being idiots and roasting bubble gum on the fire and laughing. And our mantra of that night was, goddamn kids, because we knew they could hear us. And we were just being dicks. And I didn't feel that pain. I sat in righteousness for many, many years. And then one day at a course that I took, I got in touch with it. And I saw how much I had harmed them and hurt them. And we disconnect ourselves from reality. And I apologize. And he was so magnanimous. He was great. He said to me, Michael, whatever relationship we have together, it starts right now. And I had no idea that he had that big of a heart and an intellect and a capacity to open and forgive. And so my point in telling that story is that if I wasn't able to feel that pain, I could have never come into reality with him and allowed that relationship to open and blossom and heal that in myself. So the point is that we shield ourselves from reality to hide ourselves from emotional pain. So, cultivate realistic hope, which in a way means getting better at feeling emotional pain. Get better at feeling emotional pain, and then see inside of that pain, what can you build? Can I save some seeds so that this plant doesn't go extinct? Can I build a local regenerative community movement so that if economic systems collapse, we have something built here to help feed and honor the people around here? Can I start building some cultural practices that are regenerative and not feeding into some juvenile psychosis on a macro cultural level, the adolescent male ideology that's permeating the world because so many men are in pain? Can I build something that helps those men without seducing them into this negative misogynistic place? Those are just examples that popped in my mind of cultivating a realistic hope and putting yourself inside of that. So number 5 is you got to connect. You got to connect with other people and build communities. So join and build communities. Isolation is, especially for men. Now, women are better tuned at it. It's actually just genetically, you're more, and hormonally, you're better able to connect. It just happens more naturally. Us men, we need societal structures that hold us together. And really, frankly, the only ones we got that really work are military. So if you're not in the military and you're not aligned with the military ideology, or you're not aligned with the military mission, then you're kind of screwed and you're on your own. So connect, build, try to connect with other communities. And again, especially as men, and I do want to say for men, I wanted to join the military when I was younger because I knew that I needed something like that. But I couldn't align with the politics of my era. I couldn't go and say wow, I'm going to go fight for that war because that man who's in charge is going to tell me to do it, because I don't agree with that man, and I'm not going to go fight for somebody that I don't agree with. I'm not going to go fight for something that I can't stand behind. So we all need these communities, and especially men, we need to build bonds. So this is for everybody, but the men especially, you've got to connect with other men. Men need men away from women. That's super, super important. It's the way we've operated sociologically and culturally for years. I needed it. I've had a lot of women friends over the years, and I needed to find my men friends, and connect with them. I have a wonderful relationship with my wife, but I also need those male bonds independent of women. And I need them inside of a value-based system in which people are working towards the same ends as I am. A regenerative culture, a new world where we honor the earth, we honor technology, we honor both of those things synergistically. So number 6 is to root yourself in cyclical, sacred timelines, not linear. The earth is spiraling around the sun, right? The sun is, the earth is spinning and going around the sun, right? One direction, spinning. And then the entire galaxy and solar system is moving outward in space. So literally you have this, and it's spiraling too, like the galaxy is spiraling. So you have this spiral, and then you have this spinning, and then you have this spinning, spiraling thing going through the galaxy. And it kind of returns back to a similar place, but a slightly different place. So there's this cyclical, spiral nature of everything. If you look at in nature, there's spirals all over the place. the way the water spins and a tornado spins and a hurricane spins. So that cyclical spiral nature, the spiraling of the seasons, the birth and death. So this cyclical timeline, it's akin to this being, accepting the death culture, the death cycle that we're in. We're in a death cycle. That's part of a bigger timeline. There's been 7 major mass extinctions on Earth. You and I would not be here without all 7 of those mass extinctions on Earth. So can you back out and see it from a bigger, broader perspective? I would highly recommend watching the Netflix show Life on Earth. That starts from 4.3 billion years ago. I don't know if I got the number exactly right. It goes up to today. It does a wonderful, entertaining job of laying out the broad strokes of that evolution, of your and my evolution, and all of the death and life and birth cycles that are inside of that. So if you start to think more cyclical in that bigger cycle, that bigger cyclical cycle, and then the smaller cycles, the cycle of when I say a smaller cycle, like a civilization, birth and death, that'd be a smaller part of that cycle. Your birth and death, smaller part of that cycle. The birth and death of the year, that's a part of that cycle. All of these things, a woman's cycle, a monthly cycle. So if you can get out of the linear thing and go more into a cyclical thing, it's more grounding, it's more real, it'll give you peace and clarity and help you move forward. So the thing is that you can move in a linear direction as long as you're okay with the spiraling cyclical nature of everything around it. So I'm just going to review the 6 mindset shifts, the 6 philosophies, practices. Number 1, embrace your place in the death cycle. Don't try to deny or think that you're going to help us get out of the death cycle. We're in the death cycle. Where are you going to plant the seeds for the birth of the new life? You don't try to stop the annual plant from dying. You don't try to stop the tree from dying at the end of its life cycle. You make sure that the seeds are going to go into someplace and be reborn. That's our role as stewards of the earth and stewards of life and culture, is where can we plant new seeds? So a better way to say this is, instead of just embracing your place in the death cycle, where are you going to plant fungus and mycelium and seeds and prepare the compost soil for what's going to be born out of the death? From death comes life. Embrace that bigger cycle of death and life. Number 2, focus entirely on effort, not on outcome. It is the key to happiness. Happiness lives when you let completely go of outcomes and live totally in effort. And then every day, no matter how challenging or easy it is, it's just another day of effort, another day of joyful effort. Number 3, use the permaculture zones idea. Work from 0, your mind, your body, your family, your close friends, your home environment, and then work your way out. Like, everything needs to be fractal. It needs to mirror that. The full regenerative world out there begins right here and right here. Not just right here. The muscles speak to the brain, and the brain speaks to the muscles, and we are an embodied being. This is a little bit of a sidetrack, but super important. It's too much. There's this idea that somehow we're going to take our brain out and stick it in a robot or something. You see that in sci-fi. It doesn't work that way. Your body is your brain. Your body is your earth. It's the whole thing. It doesn't work in isolated parts. If you put some sort of synthetic goo inside of you to try to keep your brain alive, you will completely transform. You will not be an embodied person. That's what I see is so missing in the sort of broligarch technocracy, whatever they call it. They started to disembody. Even the ones that are trying to synthetically sort of enhance their bodies, so they're giant whatevers. They're disembodying from the natural cycle of the human body. So start with zone 0, move out. And then number 4, cultivate that realistic hope. Get better at feeling the emotional pain of where you have harmed other entities in the world by your disconnection from reality. Get better at connecting with reality, and then start moving your place into that realistic place where you build hope. It really feels still like hope, but it's not Pollyanna hope. It's not a fantasy hope. It's a real thing that you're doing. Ground it. Literally, you need to just stick your toes and hands in the earth. There's the reason I wanted to make this by our little waterfall, Just be really grounded into it. And then number 5 is you have to work in community. Community is where it's at. The myth of the individual is just that, it's a myth. You are not an island. No matter how rugged individualistic you think you are completely embedded inside of a community. The funniest thing is the ideas of the military, where people are the rugged individual. It's like, that's the opposite of rugged individual. The military are like a unit. They are completely fused together. It's a culture of brotherhood where you let everything, and sisterhood, where you do everything to take care of your brothers and your sisters. So connect with like-minded community, values-driven community. Build it. What can you do inside of that? And then lastly, root yourself in the cyclical, spiral nature of time, the birth and the death cycle that's happening. Let that be the predominating philosophy that comes through you, so that you don't get sucked into one linear point. You keep yourself, your vision on the ups and downs, and allow it to cycle. Because it cycles. You're just living inside of the cycle. You don't get to change the cycle. That's the thing. You don't get to say there's not going to be death. I really have a problem with these religious ideas that we're going to go to heaven, so therefore there's no death. It's like, yeah, there's death. Whole religions can die, and new ones can be born. Death is okay. Have the courage to face death. I guess I'm rounding back to the beginning. Have the courage to practice facing death. That is there's the old saying, like, make today a good day to die. Make today a good day to be extinguished. Can you open yourself up to the idea that you're going to live so fully this life that even if your entire individual identity or your individual soul essence was extinguished, that you would be happy with that, because you've given, or you've lived, or you've expressed as much as you need to in this life. Now, I'm nowhere near that, and most of us aren't anywhere near that, but at least we're striving towards that. If you're just like, I'm going to go to heaven, whatever heaven you like. There's a million different heavens you can go there. I'm going to go to heaven, and that's where I'm going to get it. It's totally missing the point. You got to get it here and now, so that if you're extinguished completely, that's okay. It's like the power of love. They talk about the power of love. I think it's Tristan and Isolde, where Tristan says, even if I am going to be burned in hell damnation for eternity, and back then that was the real place that they believed in, that's okay. My love for Isolde is so great that I'm okay with burning in eternity for hell. For eternity, burning in hell for eternity. That's the kind of life you want to live, where this life is so amazing, so full, and so rich that whatever the next life is doesn't really matter, because you're doing the right thing here and now. I hope that's helpful. I don't know. I tried to stay on track. How do you do? I've been trying to get better at this on-track thing. Have a wonderful day. Please leave comments below. Please tell me how you'd like to focus these talks. I don't know. I'm just stabbing in the dark at this point, seeing I'm not stabbing in the dark. I'm trying to do my research, trying to figure out what's going to be most helpful. But anyways, have a wonderful day, and I hope to connect with you in the next video. And I hope to connect with you in the comments, and I hope to maybe one day connect with you in person. Peace.